okay, we're doing the classic shows now. We decide to go for the OVA, the early OVA of Patlabor.
Right.
So the early days.
Yeah, that's the. I'm not sure that it was originally subtitled the early days. I think that might kind of be like a New Hope situation
Yep.
where when Star
Yep.
Wars was first released, it was just called Star Wars, and only after many, many more, Star Wars movies came out did they double back and say, "Oh, wait, we got to give this one a subtitle too." I think this was
Yep.
probably just called Patlabor or Patlabor
Yep.
when it was first released.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, but if you want to
Uh,
find it like on, for example, a torrent site, it's helpful to type in OVA or the early days to find it.
so watching we watch the first three episodes, and we might carry on to the movie as well, which is the sequels, the direct sequels of this OVAs.
Yeah, I think so.
And this is the timeline that directed by none other than Mamoru Oshii.
Hmm.
I think the manga has like another timeline, and the TV series had another timeline, which wasn't directed by Oshii.
Yeah, it was. I can't remember who the director was off the top of my head, but I think he was a coworker, maybe even like a disciple of Oshii's. They worked on Urusei Yatsura together, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
But I can't
Hmm.
remember the
Yep.
dude's name.
Yep.
Um, yeah, but we're doing the OVA just because it's quick and dirty. We can watch 3 episodes now, 4 episodes at some later date, and then we'll be finished with it. Do the movies whenever we
Yep.
want, if we want.
Yep. Yep.
This is a
Yep.
very different mecha series, I would say, than any mecha anime that had been produced up to this point. I feel.
Because it's more comedy side.
Yeah, it's more character focused, I think.
Yep.
That's not to say
Yep.
that
Yep.
there isn't plenty of attention paid to the characters in Gundam, Macross, Votoms, etc.
Yep.
But um, like the robots are not the main draw here. Like it's not even close. In fact, some of the pilots, the labor pilots, that's because the robots are called labors in this universe. Some of them don't even care about like labors at all. Some of them are
Yep.
big gun heads, or they
Yep.
really love like they've given their labor a name, like Alphonse. Um,
Oh, I did have to look to see if Full Metal Alchemist is like somehow referent to this.
oh, Alphonse.
Yeah, couldn't find any link, but maybe you know.
I mean, he is full metal, and I mean these robots are too.
Yeah,
Who
yeah, yeah.
knows? I mean, Arakawa. I don't really know. I don't know if she's done any sort of mecha adjacent work in her career. I'm thinking of like all her works, FMA, Silver Spoon, the
Yep,
adaptation of Arslan Senki. She even has a
yep.
new series that's running currently that she's illustrating, um,
Mm,
which I've been wanting to check out. But I don't think that has
yep.
anything to do with robots either.
All right.
Who knows?
But yeah, I think this one is some of the first, but it like it become a staple for more series to come. I'm thinking of like You Are Under Arrest would be like fall into like this same genre
Kind of,
of
yeah.
like,
I guess so. Like
yeah,
police fiction, crime
yeah,
fiction.
comedy as well. Yep.
Yeah, You're Under Arrest is pretty comedy focused. Yeah, I would say that the mangaka for You're Under Arrest probably took some. Well, when did that manga start though? There's a possibility that it was running for a long time before the OVA in the early to mid '90s.
That's an interesting question. Let me find out. You are under.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, the manga is actually from
Yeah,
1986
that
to
predates
1992.
predates
Oh,
Patlabor.
all right.
Um,
I take it back.
Whatever the case,
So,
whatever the
yeah,
case may be, Patlabor, it's surely very influential.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, I don't think a lot of English speaking fans hold it in particularly high regard, but Japanese Japanese ones do,
Yeah.
because it fits. It has a
So
unique spot in the progression of mecha and the tradition of that genre, where
hmm,
some of the characters are very clearly like otaku, like mecha otaku, and some of them
yeah.
just do not care at all, and they don't even want to be. They don't even want to be part of SV2, like the special
Yeah.
vehicles section. Their parents signed them up for it, as a matter of
Yeah.
fact,
Yeah.
without their knowledge. That being the backstory of Shinohara, the son
Yeah.
of Shinohara Heavy Industries.
Yeah, I think it's clear at first that the main characters, the main character is Izumi and Shinohara, and even to Goto.
Yeah.
Look, I actually think that you see Goto design remind you of Goto from After the Rain.
Oh yeah, they kind of had the half lidded eyes.
Yep, 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 yep. And even like the same last name, it I recall correctly.
I don't remember that about After the Rain, whether what his name was, because I think of him as Tencho, meaning
Tenjo.
manager.
Yeah,
That's how he's
I think
referred to.
it's good. I think it's Goto as
It
well.
could be.
But well,
That might be like a direct shout out. I
yep,
don't know about the
yep,
the whole Alphonse from FMA one, but the fact that he has the similar like facial expression could
yep.
be a shout out. That would be neat.
Alrighty.
Yeah, he Goto
Yep,
is he's an interesting guy.
yep, yep. I say so as well. He doesn't seem like he enjoy his job that much, but he actually can really read everything. You know, like he pretty smart. And the way that he exchanged with the captain of other unit,
Right.
Shinobu, nah, it's not
Yeah,
Shinobu.
isn't that right?
Might be Shinobu. But anyway, yeah, the way that they go back and forth, you know, like he asked her if she want to take
The new labors.
the new labels, and she said yes, and then he just said like,
Too bad.
well, you can't. Too bad.
Yeah, yeah,
That's so good.
that's right. He says, "Well, you can't." Yeah, in my notes here, her name is Nagumo, but I think her first name is Shinobu.
All right. So that's her. Yep,
So I'm
yep.
yeah, yeah.
That's
They
pretty
so I
cool.
guess they're the captains of two different divisions, with hers being perhaps the more skilled or the more efficient division, and his being kind of like the ragtag team of
Yep,
like rejects and losers, which is the element
yep,
of Patlabor that I like the most. I would say I
yep,
like
yep,
seeing all the like the little spats and disagreements between the different members of SV2.
yep,
I love that the main character. I would call her the main character, though she doesn't hold that title like uncontestedly or clearly. Would be
yep,
Izumi,
yep.
and the fact that she is like so positive and she just
Hmm.
loves her own like individual labor so much. Um,
Let's see, name it.
yeah, she names it, and she even though Shinohara kind of makes fun of her and talks down to her, and she's even like the gopher. Whenever they want to do like a convenience store run, they send her to go do it. Um, she's still very optimistic, you know,
Yep.
and she doesn't let any of that get her down because she's got her dream job now, I guess, um, to pilot labors for a living.
Yeah. That's what I like about this team as well because like four or five of them have different personality, like they have really different design
Yeah,
and different backstory as well. So we see like Shinji, the guy who married, and Omway come to talk to the phone with his wife, and Ota is the guy who really love to shoot a gun whatever it goes.
yeah. He's the one who asks to do target practice in the first episode, even though there's
Yep,
really
yep, yep.
no need for him to do target practice whatsoever. He just wants to fire a gun.
To fight
Yeah.
guns. Yeah.
And he also like when they're fighting, when they're trying to stop the progress of the pickle, which is
Yep.
the like construction labor that they're trying to stop
Yep.
towards the end of episode 1. They're just given orders to kind of funnel it down a particular route. But
Yep.
he tries to
Yep.
stop it by firing at it, and not only does he miss it completely, but he also completely like demolishes the all the cop cars that were chasing after it, which leads to that
Yep.
really amusing cut of one of the cops like holding onto a steering
Yep.
wheel and rotating in a circle,
Yep. 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 Yep.
like looking confused in the middle of the wreckage since he's blown up all these cars and destroyed the street.
Yep. And that label just passed him by easily, like cut off his head.
That's right. Yeah, his head gets cut off, and Izumi's arm, if I remember
Yep.
correctly.
That's right.
Yeah.
I would say that that label even more skillful than like these new guys.
Well, you say that, and I mean, I would say by and large you're right, but we actually don't see the way that he is the way that that labor and that its two pilots are brought in, because
Yep.
you see Izumi charging at it after she's failed to
Yep.
stop it the first time, and then it cuts
Yep.
away.
Yep.
Um, and I thought I wasn't sure what to make of that decision. Like it could just be like a time saving thing, trying to fit it into 30 minutes. Could
Mm.
be trying to reduce the workload on your animators.
Or they just don't think that important enough.
Well, yeah, I mean that could be. You can make a decision like that, not to show part of an action scene because the action isn't really the point.
Yep.
But for this scene, I kind of got the sense that they were going for something else, and I just didn't quite
Yep.
get
Yep.
it, you know.
Uh-huh.
But I really enjoyed the first episode a lot, so I wasn't that
Yep.
development kind of seemed strange to me, but it didn't really put me off at all.
Yep.
Uh, it was amusing, and there's even a pun about the fact that Izumi lost the arms race
All
towards the end
right.
because she lost her arm, and the other robot
Yep.
like had superior firepower or something, so she lost the arms race. But
Okay.
I don't know if that's like an invention of the localization team, like if that was actually the pun in Japanese, and that's
Yep.
like a one-to-one translation, or whether they did something else with it. But
Indeed.
yeah, I'm not sure.
All
But
right.
I
Uh,
thought the first episode was a really nice introduction to
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
series.
Even like all the three episodes I watch it's just a nice breeze. It have like some of the nonsense but like it's really enjoyable to watch.
You know what else I liked about the first episode was the how slow it
Yep.
was at the start. I don't know if you remember, but
Right.
the very first shot is like a flag fluttering in the breeze with the special vehicles section logo on it, and then the next shot is the chief mechanic with his sunglasses on, standing still in the like out in front of the hangar, and the clouds are slowly passing behind him,
Yep. Yep.
and
Yep.
then you hear the wind whistling as all the other mechanics are just waiting quietly. Eventually, that silence is broken by the phone call, and then Shige
Mhm.
runs out to talk to the chief mechanic and say, "Hey, they're on their way, but they're stuck in traffic." But the fact that it opens so slowly kind of seems like a statement, like a mission statement for the show that this is not going to be a typical mecha production. Like
Yep.
it's going to be more pulled back and observational.
Yeah, and even like I think that so whenever it get into the highways, we will see like the whole bunch of car getting traffic jams.
Right.
It's there all the time.
Yeah, I think that's
I don't
probably a
know.
commentary on like overpopulation in the
Yep,
future,
yep, yep,
perhaps.
yep.
Because not only is that a thing, but there's also
Future.
the what is it called, the Babylon Project or something like
Yep,
that, which is
yep,
a gigantic wall that they've built around Tokyo Bay in order to like push the water back to
yeah.
fight
I
climate change or something.
yeah, I couldn't really get into the detail of that because they just kind of info dump it in one moment. But
Yeah,
it's really interesting because they have like the Babylon project and they have like the beach house who is like the main protester of
right,
that.
right. Yeah, that's a definite Oshii-ism.
Yep.
His scripts often have. Did you end up watching Vlad Love like a few years ago that he scripted?
Oh wow. I think I watched it until like episode 9 or 10. So I have like just 2 or 3 more episodes to finish.
Right. Do you remember that some of the scripts in that show would just drone on and on about whatever, like
Yep. Yep. Yep.
stuff,
Yep.
sometimes stuff that wasn't even relevant to the story. Like there was
Yep.
an
Yep.
episode
Yep. Yep.
about fighter planes where there's a whole monologue where a character is like, "Oh yes, and this kind of plane had this engine, and it was used for this particular role in World War II."
Yep.
That
Have nothing to do with this. So
Oshii's
yeah.
scripts have a lot of, he'll just dedicate a chunk of the script to like talking about whatever he wants. There'll be an info dump somewhere in there if he's written it.
Yep.
So
Yep.
there was,
Yep. Yep.
yeah, the Babylon Project one in episode 2, and then in episode 3, which is the one that's kind of like a science fiction farce,
Yep.
about the giant reptilian monster.
Yep.
uh, there's another big info dump about the panspermia theory.
Yep. 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 I have to look that up actually. I have to look at the guy that who won the Nobel.
Oh, did somebody win the
Uh,
Nobel Prize for that?
yeah, yeah. No, no, no. Yeah, yeah. So it based on his theory, and he was a real person. I don't know if that theory that he come up with is real, is something real or not. I would say that it's real.
Well, I mean, it sounded real
Yeah,
because the theory was
the
that
way.
life on Earth originated because like space dust came from elsewhere and made it through our atmosphere, right? I mean, that sounds plausible.
Yep. 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 Yep.
Who knows?
Well.
I wasn't there, so I couldn't, I couldn't say for sure.
Yep. And we are not the mad scientists who dissect all the meteor in order to find a life
Yeah, he
in
finds
there.
cells and then like somehow like increases the speed of their evolution or something.
Yep. 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 Yeah. Yep.
And there's
That's
even
right.
like a little miniature music video where it pans up and you see all the different stages of its life as it gets closer and
Yep.
closer to being like a reptile.
Yep.
Which
Yep.
reminded
Yep.
me of some scenes from the original Urusei Yatsuda, where in the middle of an episode there would just be like a random dance break, and then music would play, and you would see the characters dancing.
You're right.
It was really weird.
Yep. And yep. And FVC. All right. We're talking about episode 3 now, but at FVC, I think one of my favorite moment out of the 3 episode is the way that it labors Rose come up with the plan to get the monster
Right.
out, and we hear like on the pros and cons, and like the cons are pretty convincing, so that like we they decided not to do it.
Well, it's
uh
not necessarily that the cons of the plans were particularly convincing. It's just that Hirata Sensei, the doctor, keeps
yep.
coming up with reasons why they shouldn't do it. And
Yep.
who's to say whether or not he's actually telling the truth? Because by the time you get to the
Yep.
end, he's like, "Oh no, I mean, I have no problem with the plan personally, but just think about all the fish that would die, or think
Yep.
about
Yeah.
the fate of this or that." He just
Yep.
comes up with reasons
Yep.
to like stonewall everyone's ideas.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Because
Yep.
truthfully, he doesn't want to be involved or take any responsibility for what he's done.
Yep. And then the monster come up with a face that look like Yamazaki. I don't really get that. I think it is kind of like a pun or a joke. But all right.
I don't even remember who or what Yamazaki is in that context.
Oh, that's a big guy.
Oh, really? You think the
Remember
monster
that?
looked like him?
Yeah, yeah, because they say that they have like an exchange moment where they like see each other without any talking, and then the monster just like walk away,
Huh.
and they only see it once, and then it disappeared, out in air, and it have the face of
Well,
Yamazaki.
it leaves for the Pacific Ocean, I think.
Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep, yep.
I didn't really put that together that it resembled Yamazaki in any way, but that's kind of that's interesting.
I think that, yeah, that is exactly the point, because Yamazaki just like somewhere just come into his focus, and they see face to face, and they have like the moment of that,
Right.
the
Yeah.
glorified
Well, I
moment.
guess
Yeah,
yeah,
you say.
that would put like a definite comedic point on the end of the
Yep.
episode. I didn't get that. Interesting.
All right.
Yeah, the I would say
Ma
episode 3 is definitely the strangest. It's probably my least favorite.
I would say I agree as well. I enjoyed the second episode. I think it's my favorite.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, I like the second one.
yeah,
We get to meet
I
Kanuga
think
Clancy.
that's right. Who speak English and Japanese fluently.
Yes, and that makes her, very appealing to the all the guys in SV2, I guess.
Yeah. Do you have any question? Yes. What is your number?
That the show actually does that twice.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. Yep.
in episode 1 as well, I think Goto gives instructions to all the new labor pilots, and he says, "Do
Yep.
you have any questions?" Or maybe it's the mechanic who gives them orders. But in any case, someone asks them, "Do you have any questions?" And they're all like, "Hi, hi, 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 hi,
Yeah.
hi,
Yeah.
hi, hi,
Yes.
hi." And of course, they do it
Yep.
again for her, but the motivation is different. Because it's a
Yeah.
beautiful woman who speaks Japanese and also English, and she's like probably seen as exotic. Um,
Yep. Yep.
and
Yep.
they're all like, "What's your number?"
Yep. It's just weird that the way that she worked for American, but they agree to let her work here temporarily for a year.
Yeah, that makes no sense at all. They just wanted to introduce a new character, I think.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
But well,
But
I mean, it's not like anybody else is going to complain since everybody seems to love her.
yep. But she seemed the most skillful and the most experienced out of on the labor pilot. She's not technically a pilot though.
Yeah, I don't know what she was. An officer. She was an NYPD chief officer,
Yep.
whatever that means, like a police captain or
And
something.
all right. And we get into the end where the end of that episode where Shinohara have to dismantle a bomb,
Right.
and she just casually said like, what color do you hate?
Yeah.
Cut it. You have 50% chance anyway.
Yeah, that was the show almost ended after 2 episodes.
Yep. 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 That's true. So
Yeah, that was
yeah, I think I have a good time watching the 3 episodes.
I mean, that's not all there was to episode 2. There's also the fact that they wouldn't delay the New York mayor's luncheon.
Yep.
They
Yep.
just said,
Yep.
"Go ahead, like defuse the bomb. We're not going to
Yep.
move our lunch appointment because that would bring shame to the police department. So work it out. Work it out yourself."
Yep.
Definitely
Yep.
a commentary on like Japanese honor politics. Um, and there's all the male pilots sharing a tiny tatami mat room and getting their
Yep.
feet
Yep.
in each
Yep.
other's faces. I think that's a shot that I remember really clearly because it kind of contributes to the fact that all these guys are in such close quarters and on this new unfamiliar job together and kind of butting heads.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
and there's how could we forget the scene where Izumi hitches a ride on the blimp,
Oh yeah.
where
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
blimp
Yeah.
pilot is like, "If I lose my job, I don't care. Shut up! I've always wanted to
I
do this." Just comes
yeah.
charging down to the ground so
Yeah.
she can grab on, and of course the fingers of her labor come through the windows of like the I
Yep.
don't know, the occupants' quarters.
Yep. Damn.
wherever people sit. I don't know. And
Yeah.
she gets lifted over, which like fulfills her dream that she has at the start of the episode of flying in a labor.
Oh yeah.
There's lots of fun little details in episode 2. It's not just the bomb um, being disarmed.
Yep. 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 And the fact that Shinohara met the terrorist but didn't recognize her.
Yeah, that I thought was weird. Why would she be hanging
Eh,
around there?
I think she just want to make sure that yeah, well, she just want to make sure that no one really take notice about that jealous, you know.
But she specifically brought it to Shinohara's attention.
Yep,
She was like,
yep, yep,
"Can't you do anything about that mobile police trailer over there?"
yeah.
Uh,
Well, just go off you, yeah.
why? If you're the person who set it up and you're the one who wants to like blow up the mayor of New York, why say anything about it to
Yeah,
anyone?
yeah. Well,
I thought she looked kind of Ghibli-ish. Her character design
a
kind
bit.
of reminded me of how like Miyazaki and other Ghibli animators will draw like older
Yeah.
women.
Remind me that I think the boy the Herald will come to your cinema like at the end of this year soon, right?
Yeah, I think December 8th is when it comes to
All right.
American theaters.
I have no idea about
They still haven't announced a date for Australia.
no.
Hmm. Well, we'll be watching the next 4 episodes of Patlabor soon-ish.
Hello everyone, and we continue with the Patlabors OVA episode 47.
Yeah, which brings us to the end because it is a 7-episode OVA
Sorry.
series.
Yep. Yep. True. In between the 4 episode, there is like a two-part episodes, 5, 6. Now in the middle, I actually thought that it's gonna be the last three, so 7 as well, but it wasn't the case. They wrap it up so quickly, and we have like last episodes for I
Like a
I
kind of
try
a
to remember what
standalone
happened.
case.
Yeah, yeah, I try to remember what happened in the last episodes.
It's the one where the truck
Uh,
gets stolen while carrying a Patlabor, or a labor, rather.
all right.
But
Yep, yep,
then
yep, yep, yep,
another
yep.
person steals
It.
the already stolen truck.
Yep, yep, yep. Like a truck of got stolen is pretty standard in Patlabor because I think it's just happened for right every freaking episodes.
Yeah, there are multiple episodes. I think even in this, we've seen the first handful of episodes, the first couple of the Patlabor TV series as well, which we watched for an unrelated project.
Yep.
But just if you're looking at only the 7 episodes in this OVA, I think there is one other episode where a truck is carrying a labor is stolen, and that maybe episode 1.
Yep. I think that's the first episodes.
Um, I think. Hopefully, I'm not mixing it up with anything from the TV show. But I mean, it kind of
Yep.
makes sense that would be a recurring plot in the Patlabor universe because if you think about it, labors are so big that they have to be transported by truck. So if you want to write a
Yep.
story about a labor, being intercepted on its way from one point to another, it basically has to be a truck that's carrying it.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
um, and that's what we get in episode 7. But before we talk about
And
that or the two-parter that you mentioned
yep.
earlier, we have to touch on episode 4, I guess, which
Yep.
is a kind of an homage to horror films in the same
Yep.
way that episode 3 from the last batch was an homage to kaiju movies.
Yep. 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 I agree with you on that, and it certainly give a different feeling to the whole show. Like I would pick episode 4 and 3, and like the uh they two are completely different from the rest
Yeah, they're
of the
definitely outliers.
yep of the OVAs.
Yeah, and personally, I'm not a big fan.
Oh right,
Um,
wow! I actually like it, but
would you say
yeah,
you like both of those episodes 3 and 4?
I like four. I like the review of four, but I think it have a lot of issue as well. So
What was the reveal in four? Oh yeah, it was that all the instructors and the
yeah,
guy who worked at the convenience store and his daughter, I guess. No, the woman was Goto's niece or cousin or something.
go to Nice, I think.
Okay, yeah, and she
Yeah,
was. They were all in on it because they wanted to teach the members of SV2 a lesson about not being so
using gun.
reckless with their weapons.
Yep.
Of course, that's never
Using
going to
gun
work.
responsibility. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
because
right.
Ota
But
is a member of the team, and anytime he has a chance to get into labor and shoot a gun, you know he's going to do it.
yep.
And if you think
I
about it, I
think
mean, the lesson
yep.
that they try to teach in episode 4 with the mock horror, backstory and the paint in the bath that's supposed to be like blood and all that, it doesn't work at
Yep.
all because in the second part of the two-parter, episode 6,
Yep.
Clancy, Shinshi, and Ota go on a crazy like rampage
Yep.
along a road and through a tunnel and end up firing a million gajillion bullets, uh,
Yep.
at the rebels who are trying to take over the Japanese government, and
Yep.
it's completely for naught. It's all in vain because they just end up falling off the road and crashing.
Yep. I
So
remember that.
none of the lessons that Goto and Shinobu and everybody else try to teach them penetrated their skulls.
Yep. I actually like out of these OVA, I like Pluto better and better. I think he's the one who like clearly see things like in advance, and he know how to handle his team member as well. Not in this case though, but like in general.
Yeah, his speaking style, just the fact that he's very laid back, and that he
Yep.
tends to be like a planner, somebody who looks ahead and
Yep.
tries to figure out what the best move is going to be, and
Yep.
doesn't get overly like emotional, but tries to process things rationally.
Hmm.
He's very distinct from the other characters in that way,
Yep. Yep. And
especially Ota.
yeah, what you do think about yeah, so you just told us that you didn't like the episode 4. In what way?
Well, Oshii's scripts, and
Yep.
to be honest, I'm not sure that he actually wrote. He directed 6 of these 7 episodes. Only the last
Yep.
one was directed by somebody else. Um,
Oh,
I'm not sure that he wrote the scripts for all of them, but
yep.
his fingerprints are definitely on the scripts because he is a
Yep.
very wordy writer. And in episode
Hmm.
4, that tendency is on full display. Like there's so
Yep.
much talk. Well, I mean, it's kind of a who done it, like a mystery. So there is going to be a lot of talking between characters,
Yep.
just standing and sitting in rooms and stuff. But to give you like a concrete example, there's the scene
Yep.
where they're all in the room together and they're trying to figure out exactly, what's going on with all these related incidents. I think it's Shinohara or Asuma. I guess we'll call him Shinohara. That's his last name.
Hmm.
The son of the labor company guy. You know who I'm
Yep.
talking about?
Yeah. I know him. I know him.
Okay. There's a scene where he gives this whole presentation about how it's you know, he gives his theory about what's happened. And then
Yep.
Clancy, Kanuka Clancy from New York, she gets up and she says, "Oh no, it's a lot simpler than that. You see, it was all a lesson
Yep.
that the people were trying to teach us." So she makes her point. She goes through piece by piece and says, "Oh, but you see, this girl is actually Goto's niece, and also here's a receipt that I have from when they purchased such and such to as as
Yep.
part of the big setup." So she makes her point, but then she continues to talk for another, I would say, like 60 to 75
It
seconds.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's go on forever. I remember that, and I
yeah,
remember the camera just focused on her face, and I think just zoom in slowly to her face while she speaks. So it just like we only see her talking,
yeah.
and not
Kind of like I was just talking for way too
anything
long
else.
just now.
Nah. You're doing a good job of like of explaining the situation.
I'm trying, but the details are eluding me. But
Right.
yeah, she keeps blabbing and blabbing, even after it's already like she's made her point.
Yeah.
But then she continues to talk and just say platitudes basically like, oh, you see, when you've eliminated all the other options, what remains must be the truth, like some Sherlock Holmes stuff and
Yeah.
a whole bunch of other dialogue about how people need to be like aware of their surroundings and vigilant. And man, I was like, just end the episode.
Yep. 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 Yep.
So that's just one
Uh.
example where I was like, this is too much. I
Yep.
much prefer
I.
the other three episodes personally.
Mhm. Yep. I
Sounds like
also
you,
feel that as well.
yeah.
But
Well, I mean, you may not have liked episode 7 very much, seeing as it was the last one you watched, I assumed, but the details
yep.
were kind of lost.
Well, if we're gonna talk about the episode 7, I think it's a bit anticlimax. Like I think they build up thing very good in episode 5, 6. It was an event that like gonna change the thing for the whole thing forever. It's gonna be like a longer, like more serious affair that this guy have ever encountered, and then it's got down to like case on case basis, and this one is also more like in a comedic side as well. So it's about this guy who like accidentally steal another truck, and he doesn't know what that the truck carrying another Patlabor. So he's been like, why everyone so seriously, like why they should act like they caught up in something really serious. And yeah, that gives us a bit of a laugh, but it's more like default, like it deflate the tension that it was that it was going for
Deflated.
at the beginning.
Yeah.
Deflated, yeah. So
Um, I guess so. There is kind of a sense of anticlimax to episode 7, not only because you realize that the second thief was just trying to get to the hospital to meet his pregnant wife.
yeah, that
In fact,
actually
the
pretty
first
sweet.
yeah,
Yep.
and the fact that it's so sweet doesn't match the rest of the episode really.
True,
So
that's true.
it's a bit incongruous. All the different moving parts of that episode don't quite fit together. Um,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
though
Yep.
you do, his character is introduced, not really introduced, but first glimpsed or first seen in a phone booth. Uh, when
Yep.
when we get the scene that's set at the gas station and the truck pulls in, you see that happen from a distance, and the phone booth is in the foreground, and that's where the second thief has just hung
Yep.
up, I guess, talking to his wife, and perhaps something, he's gotten a message like, you need to get here as soon as possible, something is wrong. Because later,
Yep.
when
Yep.
he
Yep.
when
Yep.
he
Yep.
talks to his wife, he says on the phone, I thought dot dot dot, like the reason he
Yep.
rushed there so recklessly was because he thought there was some
Maybe.
dire difficulty with her in her labor.
Yep.
Labor.
Maybe it's Yeah, yeah, maybe it's a play on word. I was about to say that.
I'm not sure that would work in Japanese though, because they probably have a different word for
Yeah,
labor. But
yeah, true.
yeah, episode 7. There's also the fact that in episode 7, the terrorist group that originally steals the truck from
Hmm.
the labor
Yep,
show, called Beach
yep,
House, is
yep,
it, and this is something that is consistent throughout a lot of these Patlabor episodes. The political situation is often talked about, but it's not really delved into. So even if Beach House has been mentioned before, and I think it probably was at some point in the preceding 6 episodes, maybe in like the first couple, I don't know. It probably would have been in a very Oshii info dump. Um, we get one of those early on
yep,
about how there's like Project Babylon, and there's like
yep,
the
yep,
ocean level is rising, and there are uh, eco groups that are acting in response to this and like pressuring the government, and then there's the whole coup that happens, the rebellion in episodes 5 and 6, the reasons for which we don't really get. We
Yeah.
meet the leader of that movement. His name is Kiyoteru Kai. Kiyoteru Kai. And we learn that he's Goto's old teacher. Exactly in what context he was his teacher, I don't think we know. But it was probably like political science, right?
Yep.
Um, and so we know a little bit about what he wants. Like he wants the Constitution to be repealed, and he wants the government to be dissolved and stuff. But there's just a general vagueness to some of Patlabor's politics
Hmm.
that I don't know. Like for some
Yeah.
people, that might actually be a blessing. They just want to see characters like kind of being goofballs and arguing with each other and then cooperating to catch the bad guy. But then there might also be people who are like, well, what really motivated all this? Like what is the political situation in Japan in this version of the future? Um,
I Yeah, but I think they're gonna uh, do more than on that. I think in the movies, maybe
yeah,
like
from what I
when they have a
understand,
long,
yeah,
yeah,
the movies are
when
a
they have
lot
like the longer
more
length,
political.
yeah, when they have like the longer length to like to actually making a conflict and seeing through here like in the span of like 30 minutes, 25-30 minutes, they just like kind of stay in the background mostly.
Yeah, but I don't know if there was a plan for films when this OVA was first produced. I mean,
That's true.
the first movie
If
was, well, actually, the first movie was 1989. That's just a year after the OVA. So
Yeah,
there
actually like
there must have
the
been
last yeah the
a
last
bunch of
episode
movies.
of the OVA was in 1989 in June. So yeah,
Right.
I think they
Yeah,
like
OVA
yeah
episodes are their production, cycles are longer, so they're more spaced out. Yeah, so thinking about it, I mean, the movie must have had a very long, development period as well. Perhaps, accompanying the OVA, there may have been some of the same animators and like production assistants and stuff that were organizing and planning the film at the same time that the OVA episodes were being made.
yeah
So yeah, maybe the intention was to get into the politics a little bit more in the films, like even from the beginning. Perhaps that was an omission in the OVA series that was going to be fixed or
yeah.
filled in later on.
I I agree with what you said because just by episode 5 6, like the two patterns, we get like a villain Kai who want to change, who want to rebel, and for what exactly reason I don't exactly know either.
Yeah.
Like he want to change the politics, he want to change something, he want to change Japan, but
Well, he wants
you
the
know,
diet to be dissolved, so that's like parliament basically.
right,
He wants the Constitution to be repealed, and he wants the government
right.
to shut down, I guess.
It's
So
very unrealistic, like
yeah, well, Goto even says that towards the end of episode 6 when they're planning the strike on the boat that has the missile
yeah,
launcher. Goto says no government anywhere in the world would capitulate to this sort
agree to
of
that.
yeah
Yeah,
to this sort of demand. So when he said that, I was like, okay, I mean that makes
don't
sense.
take this
Why?
guy seriously.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Like why? Of course they're gonna lead an assault on this boat. Like they're not gonna negotiate with this guy. This guy is unnegotiable. Um, as for
Man.
why he did it, my guess, just obviously I know jack squat about Japanese politics, but my guess is that specifically the thing about repealing the Constitution, he's probably like a right winger, and he
Yeah,
wants the Japan to be able to have a standing army, because under Japan's current constitution that was written after they were defeated at the end of
World
World
War
War
Two.
II, it's
Yep.
their constitution says they can't have an army. That's why
Really? Like
the self defense
I
force, the JSDF, or J.
Yep.
Yeah, it is JSDF. They're called the Self Defense Force because they're not technically an army, and they're not.
All right.
They don't have the
Yep.
same amount of weapons or personnel or technology. Well, I don't know about technology, but they just can't have an army according to the government
Huh.
that they set up for themselves, or really that the U.S. forced upon them after they were
It
defeated.
it is really interesting because I just thought that they're not allowed to, like invade or, like have anything to do with defense, but they not actually having an army within Japan.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and that's
Yep.
still a point of
Well,
contention. Like even now, that's
it's
between Japan's left wing and right wing. That's one of the biggest, um, you know, points
yep.
of argument. Like people
I
who fall more to the right want to repeal that aspect of the Constitution, like create an amendment or something that says, "Oh, just kidding. We actually can have an army. I mean, every other country has an army. Why can't we?"
Yeah,
And people
that's
on the
right. And
left, I guess, are
I think they I
fine
think they
with the way
lost
things
the
are.
World War. Yeah, they lost the World War Two back in like 1945 or something.
Yeah,
Like it
45 was
was.
the end of the war.
So it was like almost 80 years ago. So like almost two generation now.
Yep. I mean,
Yeah,
I
but
think
I mean like
one of the arguments for Japan's left wing for
yep.
leaving, like keeping the status quo and not having a standing army, is that it frees up their economy. They aren't spending a ton
Ah,
on defense in the
yep.
same way that
Yep.
other like first world nations do, especially America. So
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, it
Yep.
makes sense to me that they would be allowed to have an army, but for people who are in Japan and who are much more familiar with their government and their politics, I'm sure the issue is a lot more complex.
Yep.
So all of that
I
is just my
actually
guess as to Kai's motivation in episodes
yep.
5 and 6, the two-parter.
Got that. I actually a bit disappointed of this character Kai because like the way he's set up in episode five. I think it's really classic. Like uh Shinohara saw him eating ramen and didn't realize then that he was Kai. He was like the leader of the resistance, and then it we see that he Kai have like a previous relationship uh with Goto. I so that make him a really interesting characters, but I don't see that like either like his relationship with Goto have developed into any meaningful, and even his role into all that, that he just the kind of like unnegotiable who have a an ace where he can shoot down the I don't know what he want to shoot down like the whole series, and that's it. Like he when he got off, he just say like, if I am to survive, I can, like be able to do this again or
Right.
something along that line.
Yeah, he says you yeah, it is something along those lines. I don't remember exactly either. You just have to survive, then who knows what'll happen
Yep,
tomorrow. Something
yep, yep, yep.
something like that.
Hmm.
And then the camera freezes on him and then the credits roll. Like what you think
Yeah.
you're some big badass for getting caught and being like, "Ah, but I'm still alive though."
Yep, 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 yep. Oh
I
man,
mean, I like his
fascinating.
character design a lot. Um
Yep,
and
true.
he's an interesting character, and his relationship with Goto, the fact that there are some blanks in it that we don't quite understand,
Hmm.
that's intriguing as well. And one thing that he says, as his plan is being foiled with the laborers having landed on the boat, he
Yep,
realizes that the jig
yep.
is up for him and he's going to get caught. He says, I think I wrote it down word for word. He says it took 20 years to take what began with two people and make it into this. And
Yeah.
when he says two
Uh,
people, I think you can probably infer that the second person is Goto, meaning that Goto
yep,
once shared his political ideology, and
yep.
that Kai was very influential in
yeah.
his way in his pupil's way of thinking. I mean, because
Hmm.
the police suspect that Goto is his accomplice.
Yep,
In the
yep,
scene where they're talking to Shinobu remotely, like they're all in some secret bunker or something, and she's out on the front lines, and they tell her, just let the rebels through. You don't need to try to hold the line because America's going to
yep,
come and fix this for us. And she's like, no, we're here now and we're going to do our jobs. Uh,
yep, yep.
the attitude that they have towards Goto and towards her when she resists their authority is, oh, you're part of this conspiracy and part of this criminal element. And perhaps the reason that they're so on edge is because they understand Kai's ideology and they think that anybody who is against them is actually working with him. So
Hmm.
he probably poses a
Hmm.
serious threat.
Yep.
It wasn't that serious in the end, I guess, because Yamazaki just launches uh, from the ocean and lands on the deck of the ship and crunches the missile launcher, and then it's game over.
Yep.
But
Yep.
yeah, I mean that was a cool moment, but again, there's sort of a sense of anticlimax.
Yep. Yep. I agree. Yep.
I
Yep.
really, you know what I really
Uh.
liked though was episode 5, like the setup to the two-parter. It felt very like kind of Ghost in the Shell ish, like a little bit of noir influence, and
and
the fact that it was snowing also added to that a little bit. The fact that we
and
got glimpses into everybody's like vacations, and then there
yeah,
was
that's
a
right.
you had to like get the band back together. Basically, they were all alerted to what was happening back in Tokyo. Um, in different ways, and the scene of Shinohara going from place to place and like
Hmm.
crashing Shinshi's his reunion with his wife and how like pissed she was, and then he goes to
Yep.
Clancy's apartment and like kind of flirts with her a little bit, but she's really not
Yep.
having it. Um,
Yep.
just watching him bum around like that was entertaining, and
I
the
agree. Like,
yeah.
yeah, go on, go on, go on.
No, that's it. I'm good.
Yeah, I just feel that that episode start with one thing, like they are all on the vacation and it's end with like another thing. It's actually something of a bigger, and now that they are not, like they are all in on vacation, they have to go back. They actually just end up. So I really like that. Start with one thing and then end with another thing that like having something much bigger going on.
Yeah. It like ramps up in a very promising way, I feel.
Yep,
And maybe
yep, yep, yep.
perhaps episode 6 doesn't totally live up to that. In my mind it didn't really live up to it, but I will say like I like the feeling of
Mhm.
that two-parter.
Yep.
It feels a little bit more like the Oshii that I know. Um,
Hmm. I
you know,
agree with you.
and
So,
yeah, it's fun. I
yep.
mean, you get
So
a
I
little
do
bit of
feel that.
information about a lot of the characters. Like Shinohara visits his father's company, and you meet
Mhm.
the elderly gentleman who, like, I don't know, is the boss
Yep.
of the factory. And you get a sense that there's like a little, he's probably known Shinohara since he was little, and they have a little bit of a repartee. And then you also get to see Yamazaki down in Okinawa. He's the giant,
Yep.
the
Yep.
big guy, and you learn that his father's recently passed away, and there's some distance between him and his mother.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
all those little details, I think I appreciated them a lot.
Yep. I agree. I actually like in hindsight now, for all the 7 episodes, I think episode 5 is what I enjoy the most, and what I think like the quality of Patlabor.
Yeah.
But
Oh, it's my
all
favorite
other
as well.
yeah, all other episodes are still pretty entertaining. I also think that as a whole, I think the OVA is focused more, like they spend a great deal with the team members, but as a whole, not like individually. I mean, like. the TV series, I we see that the focus is more uh on Izumi, for example.
Yeah.
He is more like spread out to other team member as well. Or maybe like Goto have even more spotlight than Izumi.
Yep. But you know, in the OVA, even though Goto emerges, I think, as the you know, not the main character, but perhaps the favorite. Um,
Yep, yep, yep.
Despite that, he's still you know, he definitely fulfills his role as the you know, the commander, the boss, and that means that he
Mm,
doesn't just totally take over because he's just the one like issuing orders most of the time.
yep.
And then once he
Mm,
does that, we cut to Izumi or Shinohara or Ota or Shinji or Yamazaki or Clancy. Um,
yep,
they all get their time in front of the camera. Um,
yep. True,
so it's,
true.
you know, it's nice. There's more of a balance perhaps in the OVA than in the TV series. I have to imagine that as the
I
TV series goes on, you know,
Yep,
other characters will get their due. But it does
yep.
the way the TV series starts does give kind of a main character feel to one person, just to, you know, to ease like a perhaps a broader audience, like a TV watching audience, into
Mhm.
what's going to be a much longer series.
All right. I gonna be an unpopular guy to say this, but I actually enjoyed the first two episode of the TV series uh more than the OVA. So I gonna say that I will try to watch the TV series to see how it goes. But the two episodes that we have watched so far for uh other project was pretty good stuff for me.
I see. I like the OVA's start a lot better, especially
Yep,
episode
yep,
one,
yep.
because the
Hmm.
art and animation were really killer.
Yep,
Um,
yep, yep.
and I like the character introductions more in the first episode, I guess. And in the first episode of the TV series, like Izumi showing up is
Hmm.
like people aren't really aware that that's going to happen, and she just wanders into a factory and says, "Oh, which way do I go?" Whereas
Yep,
in the first episode of the OVA, people are waiting on her to arrive. Um,
yeah,
I think,
yep.
or are they waiting on like
I
new labors to arrive?
Yeah,
And her
I
arrival
think
just
it's
happens
like
to
the whole
coincide with that.
yeah, I think it's like the whole team to arrive, I think. Or was I
Oh
think it wrong?
yes, yeah, that it is like Goto is there, and the mechanic, the younger
Yep,
mechanic with the brown hair and
yep, yep,
glasses.
yep, yep.
And in fact, the first character that you meet is neither of them, but it's the older mechanic with the sunglasses, the
Yep,
shades, who sits out in
yep,
his
yep, yep,
lawn
yep.
chair underneath an umbrella.
That's right. His name is Sakaki.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that picture very vividly. I just feel like
Yep.
those that episode especially like is stuck in my head. A lot of the images from that episode are stuck in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean
Yep.
now we're talking about the TV series, and
Fair enough.
yeah, a little off
All right.
topic. Though it's natural to compare them, I think. I mean, they share the same name. They came out around the same time.
And they have the same characters. They just start a bit differently.
Yeah.
Still the main event is still the same, but like the way that they approach some of these smaller events or character introduction is a bit different.
Yep. Well, different director, you know.
Uh,
Probably
yeah,
some different
true.
writers as well, because Oshii
Yep,
was busying himself with the films at that point.
I saw that. Yeah, Oshi's wrote like episode three on with in the TV series, and
Huh. So he was
yeah,
involved.
that's just the only episode. So that's the only episode, I think.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yep,
Well, we just missed it then.
interesting. Yep. All right. One last question for you before I think we can close this podcast off. Is that are you interested to check out the two movies after watching the Patlabor's OVAs?
Yeah, I would say so. Especially because, you know, as we talked about in the two-parter, like there are some questions that it raises.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, and I actually like kind of spoiled myself. I looked ahead. Uh,
Wow.
Kai is
Yep.
not. I mean, you know, I didn't read the full
Yep.
plot
Yep. Yep.
synopsis and then look up people's analysis or anything, but Kai is not a character in either of the two Patlabor. Like there are multiple Patlabor movies, but
Huh.
one and two are the
Yep.
you know the Oshii ones, and Kai is not a character in either of them. That I at
Huh.
least not from what I saw. So
Yep. I
that's
I
kind of a
reckon
bummer.
Oshie just figured that he's not cool enough, or maybe like his lack present making a lasting impact, so that so cool that they doesn't need to bring him back.
Ah, he's still alive. Who knows what'll happen tomorrow?
Yep.
Yeah, my guess would be
Ding.
that he just had a ton of ideas that he wanted to incorporate into the series, and the fact that there
Yep.
was an OVA, a TV series, a manga, films
Yep.
meant he
Yep.
Oshii and everybody else who was working on the project could just go wild with all the ideas they'd had for the mecha
Yep.
genre, and they didn't need to like keep revisiting the same villains or the same plots or
Sure.
ideas. They could just do whatever they wanted. And Patlabor in general is like it's a mecha series, but it kind of breaks from the tradition of all the mecha shows that came before it.
Hmm.
It's not about a war between the Earth and people born in space, and it's not about aliens versus humans, and it's not about you know uh, it's not any of those grand sorts of series. It's like a police procedural, essentially.
Yep.
And
Hmm.
the fact that they were breaking from tradition that way meant that they were probably able to exercise a lot of the thoughts that they had uh, about mecha plots and concepts that couldn't have
Yep.
been done beforehand. Patlabor was just a way for
Yep.
them to get those
Like like
ideas
for
out.
like for example, how to use gun more responsible. You know.
Right. Yeah. That is that is an important idea. It's just that sometimes you hire people who aren't going to be receptive to that message,
Yep. Yep.
like almost
Yep.
everyone in SV2 second unit.
Yeah. True. Yep.
Goto's got his hands
Alrighty.
full.
Yep. I'm down to be watching the two movie as well.
Right. Yeah.
That's where
I'd
it
be interested.
take off.
Yes, I think when people think Patlabor, they probably think of those movies first,
Yep. Yep.
generally speaking. But we won't be watching them for a while because we've got other stuff coming up. In 3 weeks, we will be talking about a pair of recent anime movies from this decade,
What you
and
mean a
then
pair, three of them?
a trio. Yes, not a
Yeah, a
pair.
trio. Yep.
A trio of anime movies from this decade. Then a couple weeks after that, or 3 weeks after that, it's Anime of the Year time. Then
Yep.
we'll carry on from there. So perhaps we'll talk about the Patlabor movies in the future, but it won't be soon.
Well, we actually can incorporate the one of the movies into the next 3 week as well. Consider that we're only talking about two movies. So like this and Bat Labeled movie one, we can do that. I think.
Uh, or would you be interested in doing that?
Yep, yep, yep. I'd be down to doing that.
All right, but let's do it. All right, we're back with Patlabor, the movie, the first film
Yep.
in 3 weeks.
All right. So good.
We'll see you then.
All right.